This is a recording of Chapter 16 of Survive the Atlantis Grail, Book 4 by Vera Nazarian. What in all the Rawa hells of Atlantis? Oala whispers, breaking the silence. That's a planetary body. Are we looking at the same object? Xelio asks. What happened to the plasma? Asen does not answer immediately. He minimizes the window back to its original position to reveal the three others and starts tapping on the screen and scrolling through the data on two of the windows. Yes, the location and trajectory overlaps with the plasma image from before. This is the same object. It no longer shows a plasma holofield. Kerr is shaking his head slowly. And according to this trajectory curve plot for the last several hours and the projected points to fill in the missing data, he taps at one data chart. It is moving in a stationary orbit around us, around Atlantis. What? How? I mutter. You mean it's orbiting like a satellite? Yes. Asen glances at me and the others. He exhales slowly. This is a moon. Holy crap. At this point, everyone else in the room has stopped doing whatever they were doing and they gather around us. Wait, what? Gracie says, with a glance back to Blaine, who is the only person still seated, but even he is positioning his legs around his hoverboard, ready to leave his small sofa and join us. I thought Atlantis has 3 moons, Blaine says, hover floating up to the table. It does, Xel says with a confused frown. Well, apparently now it has 4, Oala says with a strange laugh through parted lips. Is this crazy or what, Kerr? A hidden 4th moon? What is its orbit relative to Amrevet? Kerr checks data, still shaking his head, then says, based on the actual route traveled along the trajectory as marked in real time by our instruments, it's about twice as distant from Amrevet's average orbit as Amrevet's orbit is from Marianne's. And we don't know the shape of that orbit until a full rotation is completed and we account for closest and furthest abscess point irregularities. In other words, it's orbiting very far out there. Asen speaks softly, then turns to his wristcom and starts working the data. Time to let your Imperial father know? Xel says with narrowed eyes. Oh, yes. Asen makes a short sound. Best he hears it from me, or from any one of our own personnel, rather than foreign sources around the globe. Though no doubt he must have heard already. I can just imagine the reports and calls pouring in right about now. Not only from our own agencies, but from everywhere else. Because it's happening globally as they observe that thing and reach the same consensus as we do. Xel whistles. Okay, I don't understand what's going on, Gracie says. You're not the only one. Oala smiles sadly at Gracie. Message sent, Asen says, now bracing for call. And as if on cue, I hear and recognize the Imperial ringtone. While Asen gets up and steps away to talk privately to the Imperator, we continue to watch the data feeds. Time to send surface landing probes to take a closer look at this thing, Kerovat theorizes as he reads the band of his wristcom. Then, after the probe data comes back, we send shuttles with human pilots. Meanwhile, I turn to stare at Asen, observing the grave nuances of emotion and stress in his face, his urgent tone, as he speaks with his father, not bothering to maintain his usual semblance of control. The conversation lasts an interminable half an hour, and when he is done, Asen comes back to the table. How did it go? Kerr looks at Asen with worry. Bad, Asen replies. Half of the IEC is in his office or requesting a formal audience. The Oratorat is talking to her own strategy team back at Eos Heket, and New Deshret is demanding we handle the raw disk and Grail situation immediately. Multiple foreign government representatives and their local ambassadors are calling on every palace line. Oh, and we've got huge crowds surrounding the Kemetarion and throughout downtown. Half of them are there to line up early for the games ceremony. The rest are just raving in the streets in fear, screaming about ghosts in the sky. Poseidon LCA has dispatched additional crowd control units. It's absolute chaos. What about this moon? How are we to proceed? Xelio asks. Or are you shutting it down to accommodate New Deshret? At this point, I wonder if we can even shut anything down again, Asen says thoughtfully. Arc ship, raw disk, this moon. If we perform the full command sequence with our 3 Logos voices right now, and the arc ship goes to sleep, will the moon also disappear behind some kind of holoshield? Or has all of it deteriorated too far? The energy bonds, have they faded so much that the plasma shielding is permanently gone? Besides, my father wants us to continue working on this new problem of the moon. What I want to know, Oala says, is where did this moon come from? Was it brought here from somewhere else by some third party, an unknown force or entity, or even an automated program somehow related to the arc ship? Or was it always secretly here in its own orbit, but just hidden somehow all this time? And if so, who shielded it, and how long ago? And why? Asen nods slowly. That's what we're going to find out. He begins entering commands on his wrist device, while Kerovat and Xelio scroll through the panel feeds and read the data. All right, I just sent landing parties to the surface of this moon. They will be reporting back shortly. Meanwhile, what? I look at Asen, feeling sick to my stomach with anticipation of more of the unknown. He exhales and looks at me. Just got a time reminder. You need to get ready for the final ceremony. Oh, my gut does another somersault. You mean time for me to put on the uniform? Yes, unfortunately. Oala puts her hand on my back and pats me lightly, then squeezes my shoulders. Gwen, you have to be there an hour early to line up with the others, Asen tells me, shaking his head. Which means we need to leave in less than an hour. Hard to believe, considering how much of a crisis this is, but we all have to interrupt our work to participate in this game's nonsense at a time like this. Okay, let me go change, I say softly. I'll be right back. Asen nods at me with regret, then has to return his attention to the screens where a fresh new set of data is coming in and everyone becomes engrossed in it. I go upstairs and put on the vocalist uniform and a fresh pair of sports shoes to match. Looking at myself in the mirror, I see my general pallor, gaunt cheeks, the hollows around my eyes, and realize that I might require cosmetics just to look semi-alive for this ceremony. Normally I wouldn't care, and today it even seems like a ridiculous thing to be concerned about. But for some reason, I really want to come across looking like a proper champion. My gut tells me, at the very least, I need to put on a brave front for these thousands of people and for all those cameras, which means I need basic face paint. Fortunately, I have servants at my disposal here at Asen's estate, and so I call the staff, using my own new wrist thingy. Minutes later, a young and friendly maid arrives and seats me before a table of cosmetics. She gives me an appropriately fierce look of kohl-lined eyelids, dark dramatic eyeshadow, and deep plum lips. She dabs a bit of color over my cheekbones, and she brushes my hair until it crackles, then asks me how I would like it done. Let's leave it down, I say, admiring her fine work in the mirror. No decoration, just long hair. And on that note, I am ready to play my version of champion before all of Atlantida. When I return downstairs, Asen is ready for me. He hasn't bothered to change outfits, but he's already dressed nicely, and so are the other daimon. It occurs to me, they anticipated this occasion and dressed accordingly. Ready? Asen smiles at me with a warm expression in his eyes. I know he's making an effort to set aside the urgent work at hand. But I also see that he has given instructions to his various subordinates, and he has his wristcom on him at all times. He'll probably be working discreetly from his seat, even during the final ceremony. As ready as I can be, I say, and we head outside for the hover cars. Oala and Rita choose not to attend the ceremony and stay behind to oversee the incoming data on the multiple feeds. My siblings and friends also stay behind, but only because I asked them not to bother going out there into the unruly crowds at a time like this. And besides, they will see it all on the TV. Meanwhile, Asen, Xelio, and Keruvat, plus Asen's Imperial Guards and I, head downtown to the Kemetarion. Asen drives the two-seater hover car, keeping his eyes on the air lane, but frequently glances at his wrist, which is alive with frequent tones and incoming data. I sit next to him silently, watching the blazing white sky and the urban landscape below. I'm almost afraid to speak, so as not to interrupt him in his multitasking concentration. My quick glances confirm Imam Revu's intense expression of utmost focus. Soon I see the tall buildings of downtown. Surrounded by the skyscrapers, the multi-stadium complex shines in metallic radiance under the noonday's light of hell. At the same time, I see the familiar sight of the ancient ark ship, its Grail nose section thrust out of the broken stadion ground and leaning slightly, like the Atlantean analog of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I imagine the deep, bone-jarring hum it's emitting, even now. How are you feeling, Gwen? Asen's voice causes me to turn and force a smile, even as he looks at me with his serious gaze. I'm fine. This is going to be easy, I lie gently. How are you dealing with all that's incoming? I want you not to worry about any of it right now, he replies, starting to bring us down for a landing in the nearby parking area of the Kemetarion. Promise me you will simply try to enjoy your champion status and whatever else happens at the ceremony. The worst is over. My father has too many other problems to occupy him now, so for once his focus will not be on you. Nothing about these Bashtu games poses any more threat to you, so I glance down at my white uniform and the mouth logo on my chest, and then I smile and take a deep breath. We descend. Surrounded by security guards, Asen and I hurry along the specially designated walkway from the parking structure, railed off on both sides to keep back the gathered audience crowds. The Astra Daimon head for a different public entrance to meet up with Asen later in the spectator seats, while we move directly toward the contender entrance of the Grand Kemetarion building. There is no parade of thousands of contenders this time, only a handful of us, and I see no one else on the walkway at the exact same time as we arrive. Instead, the crowd see us and start screaming and chanting the now familiar slogans. Gwen Lark! Gwen Lark! Imperatrice! Imperatrice! Shoelace Girl! And there's that creepy new one. Gebby Goddess! Gebby Goddess! Asen's hand closes around mine, and I feel the comforting strength of his fingers. We exchange intense glances, and he barely nods to me with encouragement, then lets my hand go. Suddenly I remember to wave back and smile at all these people calling my name. The fans expect no less, and so I give it to them. I only stop waving and lower my hands once we're inside the building. Asen accompanies as far as he's permitted by games regulations, which is to the lobby entrance where games officials await. I check in at the desk, then turn and this time give my bridegroom an almost confident, forcibly relaxed smile. He leans in for a quick kiss on the lips, which still manages to send an inappropriately timed jolt of desire running through me, and then we come apart. See you in a few hours, I whisper, grateful that there's none of that tragic desperation between us, and there has been a month ago when we said our awful goodbyes on the first day of the commencement ceremony at the very beginning of the games. This feels much different. As always, I'll be watching every moment from the Imperial balcony up above, he replies, then kisses me again, harder. And reluctantly he stays behind, while I am told to follow an official inside the corridor. I arrive in a small sterile chamber with a tall ceiling and pale walls, and 3 rows of seats, no more than 30 total, before a podium. This is our staging area, where the champions and tied contenders are supposed to receive instructions before the final ceremony. There are about a dozen people in the room. At once I see a rainbow of uniforms, and my fellow teammates and contenders, already seated in some cases, others milling about with a mixture of nerves and boredom. Several games officials and guards wait nearby. It's interesting. Right now, none of our uniforms are glowing brightly to indicate champion status. The game's techs must have decided to hold off lighting us up until every category winner is official. There's Hedge Kukait, tall and lanky with his long white hair, wearing warrior red. He stands next to my teammate, Kateb Nuletat, in inventor yellow. Both of them see me, and their expressions change to a kind of intense, questioning wonder. They're seeing me for the first time after the disastrous moment when I raised the Grail. Then I notice Bree Walton, also in white with the entrepreneur logo, her purple hair done up in 3 tight knots on top of her head. With her is Kokai Jeet, elegant in entertainer green, with 5 long colorful braids and dramatic face paint. "Oh, Gwen Lark! Over here, Amrevet!" Kokai sees me and opens his eyes wide for just one moment, as if not sure how to react to me, then makes up his mind and grins, showing his white teeth. He is wearing dark coal, dark green and plum eyeshadow, rouge over his cheeks and dark lip color, and his lean, handsome face is fierce with energy. "Hi there," I say, approaching them with an uncertain smile. "Well, look who the Atlantean cat dragged in." Bree gives me a sideways stare, then snorts. "Lark, dearly beloved, we're gathered here again for better or worse. Listen, I have no idea what happened the other day at the stadium, whatever impossible voice crap you did or didn't do to break everything in that building." And Bree widens her eyes meaningfully at me. "But let's try to enjoy this one." "Oh, Walton," I say, shaking my head and pretending to ignore her meaning. "Hope you've had some decent rest and are enjoying your champion status." "Oh yeah, having a total blast in my 4-star cell in correctional," she replies flippantly. "You know they won't let me out until this thing is official. So yeah, I'm enjoying it all right. Though your ex did let me have one decent celebratory meal. Looks like Sangre is getting soft on me." I roll my eyes. "Gwen!" I turn and see Lolo E. Tatu in technician blue with a veil behind me. "Hi, Lolo," I smile at her, and then a strange feeling washes over me as I am reminded of her sick mother and the fact that she still has to participate in a tiebreaker event. With Lolo is Chihar Aguath, calm and stoic as usual, also in blue but with a scientist logo. Today his unruly thin white hair is smoothed back neatly over his balding head. "Nefero dea, Imperial Lady Gwen," Chihar says to me in his most normal, mild voice, showing no sign of awe or fear of me, or maybe just keeping his real thoughts well concealed. "It is good to see you." I notice that one of his hands is wrapped in a bandage, and recall vividly how his hand was injured during the triathlon race. However, I am not surprised that he hasn't resorted to any kind of accelerated and expensive medical treatment, now that there's no urgent need for him to be healed overnight. Except, maybe there is, I remind myself. Chihar also has to deal with the tiebreaker, and who knows what kind of thing might be required of him. I glance at the other remaining scientist contender, a petite, dark-skinned woman whose name I believe is Rea Bunit. She's in blue, standing a few feet away talking to Uko Duetat in athlete red. In that moment, more champions and contenders arrive. Litana Chipur, the green animal handler, enters the room, and my heart constricts painfully as I think of Zab, my team and friend. Litana wouldn't be here if Zab hadn't lost his life during that damned final race at the hands of Thalassa, giving up his category slot for Litana to occupy. The next arrival is a large man with messy, undyed brown hair in a blue uniform. He is Lolo's category rival, the other remaining technician, whose name is Mineb Inei. So that's everyone. But wait, no. I turn around and see Rurim Kiev, the yellow artist, seated in the third and last row in the corner chair, so that he's easily overlooked. Once again, the elusive Rurim seems to be playing his favorite invisibility game. Our gazes make contact, and I see a subtle hint of humor, or maybe mockery, in his black eyes. However, we're not done with the rivals. I'm somewhat surprised to see my own category rivals, Sofia Veforoy and Fauzi Boto, enter the room. Fauzi is speaking to her quietly, and his face shows an angry expression. Sofia, on the other hand, is neutral and composed. She cuts off Fauzi's speech with a cool nod and heads directly toward her own teammate, Hej Kukait. A weird moment of panic overcomes me, so that my breath slows down. Why are they here? After I raised the Grail, I was pronounced the winner by the Imperator himself. So why are they here? But there's no time to wonder, because another games official enters the room, followed by none other than Miramis Opu, the free priest of the Grail. Both men walk up to the podium, and the official clears his throat, waiting for all of us to take our seats. Contenders, welcome back. We are pleased to be able to hold the closing portion of the games of the Atlantis Grail today, after being interrupted by the unexpected natural events earlier. In a few moments, we will have you line up and walk out into the arena and face the same lineup of judges as you faced on the final day of competition. The official pauses. Except for the venue, nothing has changed, contenders. You will resume from the same moment you were interrupted. In other words, when our Imperial Sovereign pronounced contender Gwen Lark to be the winner in her category. With all respect, I dispute this conclusion. From the row behind me, Fauzi Boto interrupts. We all turn to stare at him as Fauzi stands frowning and points at me. When it was her turn during the tiebreaker, she did absolutely nothing of consequence. Or else, regardless of what we're being told, she clearly caused the destruction of the stadium by means of a dangerous vocal routine. A poor choice of voice demonstration, to say the least. Either way, the Imperial Sovereign merely put an end to her performance. Therefore, I question the true intent and meaning behind this declaration. My heart starts pounding as I stare at Fauzi Boto. Meanwhile, everyone now looks at me. In particular, I note the priest of the Grail's extremely anxious gaze upon me. Contender Boto, the official says. The words, you've been won, you won. You were spoken by the Imperial Sovereign, and it is a clear judgment of fact. I accept no such thing, Fauzi retorts. Ironically, in that moment, he's expressing my own favorite response to adversity. It is within my right to dispute the meaning of such an inconclusive statement, especially considering that wasn't even made by the designated judges. How to interpret these imperial words is yet to be seen. The official pauses again before speaking. Very well. It is indeed every contender's legal right to dispute the judge's decision in case of tiebreakers, and there is sufficient cause for some minor doubt, if only because of the unfortunate timing of the events. So you will have the opportunity to present your case before them. Now, please sit down and allow me to proceed. Fauzi Boto nods, still frowning, and lowers himself down. He gives me dirty looks from his seat, but now I turn my back on him and return my attention to the podium. In the row before me, I see my other vocalist rival, Sofia Veforoy, and now I understand why they are both here. Yes, they all have to be here to recreate that exact moment we were interrupted. But as a result, my game's champion status is being put under question.